It's about that time again. We have to talk about the latest episode of The Real Housewives of Orange County. And look, before we get into any of it, I have to say they are having the best season. And I know I haven't watched every single season of The Real Housewives of Orange County, but these last few seasons were just okay. In comparison to this season, I'm not sure what I'm going to get at every week. You know, the last couple of weeks, I'm like, okay, good. This is a good one. I was looking forward to this episode. As I'm watching the episode, I'm saying to myself, this is really a good season. I'm actually sitting there and I'm not taking notes. So this recap will be all over the place, but you are just here for my opinion. Okay. And I probably enjoyed the episode more because I wasn't like, oh, let me see. I literally was still rewinding the episode just to kind of like, wait, I need to rewatch that again. Because there are like maybe like 3 or 4 main elements that we are focused on this season, and we are talking about it in this week's episode. So we're gonna get into all of that. And part of the reason why I didn't want to take notes is because I did another video about Dawn Richard and more elements from her lawsuit, where she names Neo, Usher, and Jimmy Iovine, music executive Jimmy Iovine, witnessing Diddy actually physically being abusive to Cassie. So if you missed that video, and if you missed my previous video where she filed her lawsuit, go check out that video. Go give it a like, go give it a comment, because those things are important. And stay tuned. I am going to try this weekend to really sit down and read through the 55 pages with you on our podcast. So if you enjoy content like this, if you want to hear audio versions of our live recaps and special episodes like that Diddy lawsuit that we're going to be covering, be sure to subscribe to the Kempire podcast. And while you're there, very much important like it is to like and subscribe and comment here, go give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Let's get into our Real Housewives of Orange County recap.
Here we go now.
Here we go now. Here we go now. Here we go now. Dun, dun, Here we go now. Here we go now. Okay, let me calm down because it's getting warm in here. Happy Friday, guys. Happy Friday the 13th. How is everyone doing? How is everyone? I know some of you are back in college. Some of you are back at work, back at school. How was your week? I don't know where the weeks go. We were just celebrating Labor Day. Now we had our first full week. No, our second full week of September. How are we feeling? I'm feeling, look, let me do my own check-in. I'm feeling good. I am feeling productive. I'm getting a lot done, but I still have lots more to do. And it's not even about getting the apartment together. So far, as much as I can get done, I've gotten done. Again, thank you to those of you that have sent well wishes, comments, and things like that, and housewarming gifts. I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate the support. But like I said, your well wishes are support enough. And liking this video, subscribing, sharing, telling a friend to tell a friend is also so very important. This is our weekly recap of the Real Housewives of Orange County. Speaking of the podcast, I was just looking at the stats. The Real Housewives of Orange County audio recaps, I didn't realize how much of you listened to that one. I didn't really. I mean, we have a few that do very well, but that particular one consistently over the last 2 weeks has done very well. I'm like, oh, I was like, okay, Orange County, and look, our recaps. Let me look. I can actually tell you right now, our recaps here on YouTube for Orange County, they do okay, but not in comparison to like our RHOA or our RHOP recaps and things like that. Speaking of RHOP, we did review and recap the trailer that dropped yesterday, so be sure to check that out if you missed it. But when I compare it to some of our other recaps, like our Love and Marriage Huntsville recap, our last one, let me see, our last one did almost 30,000 views, and that was just a few days ago, maybe like almost a week ago. Not even a week ago, like 5 days ago. And then our Braxton Family Values, well, the Braxtons recaps do better than I mean, views wise. If you really look at the analytics, and this is for content creators, if you look at the analytics, don't just go by views, because views don't necessarily determine. It's really the duration that people are actually watching your videos. So, but just based off a quick overview, I was just really surprised based off of what happens here on YouTube versus what happens on like the podcast can be very different. Interesting, something to talk about. But I say all that to say, maybe it's because I'm so happy about this season of The Real Housewives of Orange County, so it's pouring in to our recaps. All right. Where do we begin? So we're on a trip. Heather Dubrow, you can't leave RHOC. I know you've been sort of hinting at possibly going to Beverly Hills, and I wouldn't mind seeing you there because you really do have friendships with those ladies. However, the way she hosted this trip, I'm like, who's going to host a trip like this? I mean, they could pretend, and it's really production hosting it. I really believe that Heather Dubrow has her hands in hosting this beautiful, beautiful trip. Yes, we had all of the drama, but then her talking about her children and creating a space of normalizing her family for the world. I was like, oh my God. It was so beautiful. Sidebar. My recap's gonna be all over the place. I just want to make sure I talk about everything that I thought about when watching this. She by someone else could never. How is Heather Dubrow able to get, yeah, she had a designer, but at least she told us she had a designer. Sheree didn't tell us that. She did have a designer. But they created these very basic looks that were ready for a runway show, and it was all for charity. I'm just saying, like, I thought about She by Someone Else, Sheree Whitfield, for those that don't know who I'm talking about. I'm like, look how she was able to put this fashion show together, and we didn't have to wait 15 years for it. At the top of this week's episode, we're talking about Shannon. So we know Shannon went to Heather to open up about what she's going through with John Jansen. She showed her that horrific picture after she got into the DUI car accident. And I have to say, Heather really was, although their relationship has been rocky over the years, Heather really was probably the right person to go to when you're in this sort of state. Even me watching it, I felt grounded by Heather. And yes, we know Heather is a Capricorn, and I keep telling you, she gives me Virgo vibes. I don't know a lot of Capricorns. I know they say Capricorn's like an ideal match for a Taurus. I've done that before, didn't necessarily work, but I got it. I saw eye to eye with this person. I was like, I get why we get along. But I also, I'm not very familiar with the personality of a Capricorn, but I still believe she has a lot of Virgo in there too. I do. For the first time, sorry, Virgos, I know it's Virgo season, but I have to say this. I kind of understand how Tamara's a Virgo. Stop, come on. I kind of understand, because my little quandary with Virgos. I was like, oh, that's the Virgo in her. I know you don't want to own her, but I will have some nice things to say about Tamara this week. I know people like to say she's an ish starter, and she is, and she's a terrible friend, and I don't believe she's really loyal to Alexis. She's loyal to herself. The probably only other person she's loyal to is her husband, and I don't know even about that. Sidebar, I'm so glad that she's all healed now. Have you guys seen Tamara's face now after that whole situation? Well, next month's Halloween. I think we should all be Tamara for Halloween next month. But she's all healed now. I don't know if I would want to go through that. I'm sorry. Like, shout out to all the women that go through these medical procedures and you ride it out. I don't think I can do it. I'm not made for it. I'm not made for it. Back to Shannon. So Shannon, gets really emotional, and Heather's like, I'm here to support you. We're gonna have a fantastic, night. Go get ready. Come back. We'll do glam and things like that. Fine. She does reveal at the top of this episode that John Jansen's attorneys denied signing an NDA. So she has agreed to pay him the $75,000, but he does not want to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Because let's think about it. Let's work our brains around why he wouldn't want to do that. First of all, it feels like extortion. And I'm sure some legal minds have been weighing in on if this is extortion. It felt like extortion, to be honest with you. I think at this particular point, have they settled the situation? I don't even know. I think we would have seen the news that they've settled this. But literally in last week's episode, Shannon said that I'm willing to pay the $75,000, but she wants him to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I feel like that's typical. That's protecting him. That's also protecting her. They won't be talking about it. He probably doesn't want to sign it for a variety of different reasons. I don't know if he wants to be able to bring it up again. He wants to continue to allow it to be Alexis's storyline. Maybe he views it as, if I sign this, then Alexis doesn't have a storyline. Well, what does that say to you? And I told you, Alexis, I think I would like Alexis if she didn't die on this John Jansen hill. I don't know how she would have managed to come onto the season dating John Jansen and not ruffling Shannon's feathers. The very first episode, I said, I feel like Shannon's beef with Alexis has nothing to do with the lawsuit, the previous lawsuit where her ex-husband was suing her. Now she has a boyfriend suing Shannon. I always felt that it was that Shannon was like, you're dating my ex. Her ex, that was not that long ago. It's still fresh. All right? It's still fresh. I mean, but your best revenge, Shannon, is looking amazing. And let's be honest, Shannon, I think if anything, you should send them a gift basket. But you probably already did because you paid that $75,000. Don't send them anything. However, I think it really helped your storyline this season. Not that it gave you a storyline. You clearly had one. But I think it helped with, because you really were and probably are still getting it from the audience for driving under the influence, crashing into someone's home. But I feel like this whole Alexis and John Jansen thing was a great buffer. It was a great buffer for you this season, which you probably needed. Again, I'm not going to get into the conversation on whether or not Shannon has a drinking problem. She clearly is still drinking. Tamara says that she's very uncomfortable with seeing Shannon drinking. She feels like Shannon is in a state of denial, and she might be, but Tamara, but this is the Virgo in her. Virgos just say things. Like they say things, they say what's on their mind, they can't help it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's a Virgo thing. Like there is no filter on a Virgo. So the more I'm looking at Tamara, I'm like, oh, that makes more sense. I know Virgos, you're not happy about this, but I'm just telling you what it is. But this is why it's also important to know your moon sign and your rising sign, because not all Virgos are the same. That's her sun sign. Her sun and moon could be something else. I don't know what it could be else. Trash and more trash? I don't know. Anyways, so John Jansen does not want to sign this non-disclosure agreement. Fine. He doesn't want to sign it. Fine. I guess. Emily wants to have a conversation with Alexis because she already talked about this with Katie last week. She said maybe she should have a conversation with her to kind of bridge the gap between Shannon and Alexis. So before that even happens, they're supposed to be going out to a dinner, and Alexis decides to stay back because of the whole Shannon stuff, and everyone's talking about it, and Shannon's talking about it, and she's talking about how uncomfortable she is. So she's like, I'm going to stay back. I thought that was weird. I was like, you're just going to stay back? What, are you fearful? Like, I don't understand why Alexis would stay back. But she does. All right. But then we see footage of the ladies hanging out the night before. See, this is where you guys lose me. Like grown women sticking your finger in another grown woman's butt. I get it, housewives antics. Like maybe I've just hit a level of maturity or old fogey that I'm just like, that's not funny to me. That's not entertaining to me. If anything, that's very gross. Very gross. Sidebar. I was going to talk about this when I talk about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I haven't watched the premiere episode yet. I know you guys haven't seen it yet, but I have the screener. And I need to watch it. But I have been watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I'm on like episode 7, y'all. I know a lot of people want to be like, oh my God, it's so amazing. I think the initial story and what played out on social media when it comes to mom talk, and the fact that they keep referencing like, oh, we're doing this for mom talk. I can't take these young women seriously. And that's where Real Housewives and Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is so great. First of all, the editing team and production team over at Salt Lake City do an amazing job putting that show together. But it's so night and day. Like, you get funny, you get serious. It's just so different. I thought that The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives would be so much better than Salt Lake City. And I'm just talking about previous Salt Lake City. I'm not talking about this current season. I don't know what that looks like yet. But just based off the previous seasons, I'm like, it doesn't even compare. It doesn't even come close. And yes, there's a huge age difference in between the two. And maybe, again, I'm an old fogey. I'm not. I think clearly I'm just watching something. I'm like, here's the thing. Can we just talk? I feel like a lot of people, and I always think of that interview that Omarosa did with Bethany on Bethany's now canceled show, Bethany from Roni. I always think to myself, people celebrate, especially in this industry, mediocrity when other shows, and we do it in our own community too. Like, we hold us to such a high standard, and I see such mediocrity become successful, and I'm just like, and I really was coming into The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I'm taking a major sidebar right now, y'all. I really was coming into The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and I get why people are like, this is fascinating. These wives ended up doing becoming swingers and blah blah. They talk about that, but then it's just all of this little. And I love learning about Salt Lake City and the Mormon religion and things like that, and those aspects. But the way that it plays out, the way that it is story told on this particular series is just okay. And I don't know if because people hyped it up so much that I got into it and I was just like, oh, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be fantastic. The way that people have been hyping it up, it's like, oh my God. It's okay. Would I say that you should watch it if you have nothing else going on? If you have nothing else going on, sure. Why not? Give it a shot. And yes, there are things that you might find interesting, but is it great television? Is it as great as what we just watched on Real Housewives of Orange County? Nope. No. And I get it. Yes, there are some scandalous moments. The one swinger wife divorced the husband. Now she's pregnant by the boyfriend, and he's like has the maturity of an ant. They're talking about the Mormon religion. We got a woman named Layla who's half black. She's 22, 2 kids, and already on her first divorce. I know the sound of that makes you go, well, that sounds like it would be interesting. But yeah, the way that they speak, it feels like immaturity. You're watching. Honestly, I'm surprised that any of these people are wise. But look, you can get married at the age of 18. And yes, we have Whitney, who was she the one who got married she had her baby she got married at 16? I think it was her. I can't even keep up because that's the other thing. 5 of the cast members all look alike. I can't, luckily Whitney cut her hair so she stands out and she's alienated from the group. And Taylor is so thirsty. And I think Taylor really blew up mom talk and went on social media. She only did that, and I did a TikTok about this. I said I think she only did that, and that's the culture that we're in, and that's the generation that is doing that. They will do anything to go viral, and I believe that is the reason why she did that. And I also think that's the part of the reason why Whitney is upset that Taylor got the success and the notoriety with exposing Mom Talk, and she just got criticized. And her husband, Whitney's husband, can we talk? Look. I know he admitted to cheating. With who? Him or her? Anyways, moving on. I know I took a major sidebar. I had to. I know you guys have been waiting for me to talk about it, and I really thought I was going to do a separate video and talk about it. I just don't, I'm not that invested. But I know based off of this video right now, you're like, are you sure? I'm pretty sure that I'm not that invested. I just needed to say it because when you watch a stellar television like Real Housewives of Orange County this week, I'm just like, it just doesn't compare. But again, we're talking about very different age brackets. This is a very different generation that we're watching on Orange County versus The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Very different. Very, very, very different. But anyways, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video. It's an easy and free way of supporting not just my channel, but other channels as well. And speaking of supporting the channel, our friends over at Rose Forever are sponsoring today's live recap of Real Housewives of Orange County. They have amazing deals going on. They ship worldwide, and especially they have roses that will last you at least a year. All kinds of assortments are available. And like I said, all kinds of great discounts are now available. Head on over to the description for more details on our referral link. Along with that, don't forget it is Virgo season, and all you Virgos have been requesting birthday wishes from me, anniversary wishes, or you just want a message from me or advice from me. Head on over to the description for more details on how you can book me on Cameo. All right, so back to this. So Shannon is dealing with what she's dealing with when it comes to the Alexis of it all. First of all, they separate the groups because of the tension between Shannon and Alexis. They do this forest bath thing that they did. The forest literally looked like out of a storybook. I was like, this is a really gorgeous forest. So they're doing that. Shannon comes. I'm not. Can I tell you what I really thought when Shannon came in? I was like, was Shannon drinking when she came there? Because she looked a little disheveled. Just asking. The other ladies go to do baking. Fine. Of course, the ladies doing the baking, they're talking about the Alexis and Shannon of it all. At Heather's situation with Katie, Jen, and Shannon, they're doing that. Shannon is hacking, but again, you're out in the forest, so you just never know what you're allergic to. But this is the opportunity because Katie told Jen already, like, I think I want to have a conversation with Heather about, I want to be able to speak my piece. And she feels like Gina threw her under a bus and that Gina's been telling everyone that she's a liar. Here's the thing. Last week, if you missed last week's video or the separate video that I made talking about Katie and the default judgment that she's facing for falsely accusing a man of a crime, if we didn't know, and mind you, there's other things that she's been accused of, like multiple things that makes her not very credible. I have to say, Katie, I think Gina definitely set you up for the okie doke. I definitely believe that. But it's hard to believe you. Anyone else? Look, I'm looking around. Anyone else? Like, it's hard to believe you. Because if you would do some of the things that people are accusing you of, based off the show, I like Katie. I don't like that she decided to fall into this paparazzi whatever. And now she's still like, it's like she wants to be in the good graces of Heather while throwing Gina under the bus. Fine. So she decides she wants to have a conversation with Heather, and Heather's just like, I don't want to have the conversation. We're trying to move forward. And I told you, I wish Heather would just allow her to speak her piece. But Heather does make a good point. Very clearly what Katie was doing, Katie wanted to blame someone. Heather said if she came at me and was like, I did something stupid, I shouldn't have done that, she would have been a little bit more open to it. And I was like, you know what, Heather, you might be right with that. And she did own it this episode that she's like, I should have let her, speak. She owned it. I'm going to give Heather credit. She owned it. It's like, I should have let her speak. But as soon as Katie started bringing it up, she wanted to blame Gina. Only for Tamara. And Tamara, this is why you're probably necessary, at least for this season, to be the bone carrier. Because Katie and Tamara had their own conversation where Tamara later tells Heather, Gina set her up. And basically, Gina was only wants to make peace with Heather because of Heather's rich people, rich, friends. And this is going to come up a little bit later. And Heather's just like, I don't want to talk about this at my event. I don't want to talk about this at my event. Speaking of the event, so Heather had collaborated with this designer for this special charity weekend that she's hosting. And she wants to do a fashion show. Dr. Terry even shows up. I thought that was really beautiful. She says, when it comes to our family, he's always going to show up. So he shows up for this event. But Emily, and this is important to mention because they're going to talk more about it next week, she's feeling insecure about her body. And this is what's important for anyone that has ever lost weight. Understanding the psychology of losing weight and what that means. It's all mostly mental than it is just physical. Yes, there's a physical aspect to it, but there are a lot of people, and I'm sure some of you that are watching this, that have lost tons of weight, but in your head, you still feel at the other weight because it's more emotional than it is just physical. And that's clearly what Emily is going through. So she's just sort of like, everyone's so tiny and she had to wear, special jeans because they didn't have her size. Let me tell you something. Everyone looked great, but I think Tamara and Emily both had the jacket. Emily, you wore the hell out of that outfit. You looked better than Tamara did. No offense, Tamara. I liked your black outfit, but the similar outfit that you had with Emily, and I get it. Emily was just like, we're going to look like freaking frack with this. But you filled out that outfit. Like, it looked so good on you. I was like, that's a look. But I get it. No matter what I say or what the audience says about how Emily looks, it's not about that. It's about how she feels about how she looks. But I thought you looked great, Emily. Especially when I was like, oh, look at Emily. I like the color, the way that it was cut for her curves. I was like, this was perfect. But she felt a way about it. And she felt like she stuck out amongst these, very skinny women and small women. And I get it. It's not easy for her. When you look at this cast of women, they're all very, very thin. Very, very thin. And I'm sure there's even more of that in Orange County outside of the show. All right, guys, take a sip from your coldest water bottle. But if you haven't gotten a coldest water bottle, head on over to coldest.com and don't forget to use the discount code KEMPIRE10 for 10% off. But they don't just have water bottles that keep your water cold for 36 plus hours. They have things for your pets. They even have sheets and pillows. Coldest.com, discount code KEMPIRE10 for 10% off. The water's still cold. It really, really works. That's one thing I will say. Like, I will fill this up overnight with cold water, and then the next day I'm like, oh, still cold. And mind you, this is actually, this is over probably like almost 12 hours. Still cold. That's pretty amazing. Anyways, they also say that you should be drinking out of like metal and glass things anyway. Don't drink out of plastic because the particles and things like that seeps into your water. I'm not playing with that. I've been very paying attention. Even instead of getting like the Poland Springs and the plastic bottles, because you don't know how long those waters have been sitting in that, I've been getting bottled water. And I know it might be a little bit more expensive, but not really when you do the math. I mean, it's definitely cheaper, but is your health worth it? Just saying. Anyways. All right. What else did I want to say? Okay. All right. So they still tried to barter a conversation between Shannon and Alexis this week. And Shannon, Alexis says she's open to it. She's open to it. When they bring this conversation to Shannon, Shannon's about to leave. Shannon's like, nope, I don't want to. And as she's leaving, she tells Alexis, she's like, I know you wanted to talk, but I'm not interested. And I know some people might say, come on, Shannon. No, she's literally in the middle of a lawsuit with this woman's boyfriend. And she has been a bone carrier for the boyfriend. If she had tried to play neutral, I could see us maybe possibly having a conversation. But they're literally in the middle of a lawsuit, and he's threatening to release video footage of her DUI from that night. I don't blame her for not wanting to engage in any conversation that could jeopardize her lawsuit. We have to think about that. And actually, it was smart. I was like, well, maybe she'll do it for the show. But honestly, it was really smart of Shannon not to do that. Rewinding, because we are at this beautiful event that Heather is hosting. And I know a lot of people will recap this and not really talk about the event. As someone that's a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, I appreciate the work that Heather is doing, normalizing that this is everyone's family. And I love what she's doing within this community. And like I said last week, she's been doing this for over 10 years. And I love that she's used this platform to educate and get the information out there, because I'm telling you, I still see so much homophobic comments, homophobic, transphobic comments still to this day on social media in our comment section. Anytime that literally I posted DeMarco Morgan from Good Morning America, he was in Italy having a fantastic time. And he had, I don't think call it a man per se. There's a word for it. And just like the homophobic comments, and mind you, there are straight heterosexual men that wear it. And I believe DeMarco is heterosexual. Shout out to the Italians. The Italian men have that all the time. He's in Italy. He's doing like the folks that do over there. So like I said, anytime I talk about the LGBTQI community, I see so much homophobia still in the comment section. So I don't take lightly what Heather is doing with her platform on this show and with this organization. So shout out to Heather and shout out to this organization for the amazing work that they're doing. All right. Katie. So at this event, Heather has a conversation with Tamara, and Tamara is a bone carrier because she had a conversation a few hours earlier with Katie, and Tamara's just like, Gina's the one behind all of this. Gina is just using you. She doesn't want to rock the boat with you because of your rich friends. And Heather's just like, I mean, that's a done deal anyway. But Heather really would know the truth here, because I know later on when they do have the conversation, Gina says that's ridiculous. Emily has her back on that. Only person that would really know for sure that Gina is not using her for her rich friends would be Heather. Has she ever asked? Has she ever connected? Or maybe she's playing the long game. Who knows? However, Gina would be dumb not to try and network with her friends and family in real estate. You know a rich person? I'm in real estate. All it takes sometimes is one deal to make you a very rich person. And is that her motivation behind keeping the peace with Heather? Maybe, but she's got kids to, take care of. Part of me, I don't blame her, but I also understand for Heather, it's sort of like you just never know who's your real friend. And I think she really did want to be friends with Gina. And I think Heather she doesn't have a lot of friends like that, I think, that genuinely are friends with her just to be friends with her. And I think she wanted that with Gina, and the fact that even came up, I think it kind of made her give Gina the side eye. I do believe Gina threw Katie under the bus, but Katie, you're also not a reliable reporter. You're not. I wonder if this is going to continue, even though they deaded it at the end of the episode. So they do at the end of the episode. Wait, was there anything else that I want to talk about? Look, we talked about a lot so far. Okay. But no. I'm trying to remember if there's any other element that I want to talk about before I get into the end of this. Because they get to the Katie part of it at the end, because Heather's like at her event, I don't want to talk about this. She did allow Shannon and Alexis to possibly have a conversation, but that conversation never happened. But she tells Gina, tomorrow I want to have a conversation with you. And Gina's just like, what happened? What did I do? So they end up having the conversation the next day in front of the entire group, and Katie confronts Gina for calling her a liar, and Gina's just like, but you are. I don't know about that, but yeah. in regards to the whole, telling Katie to bring up the whole paparazzi thing. The fact that we're still talking about, I know normally I'd be like, I'm so done with this paparazzi thing. It's bigger than the paparazzi thing because now we're talking about, Gina was just she doesn't want to break off any sort of relationship with Heather because she wants to use her for her connections for real estate. So Gina has a very big reaction to that. And Heather's just sitting there like, why is everyone looking at me? Because we need to know, is she using you for the real estate connections? Have you offered her that? But let me tell you something. Gina was very slick here because she's done this a couple of times this season, transferred it back to the whole Travis of it all. We did have a separate scene with Emily and Gina talking about the Travis situation. And I do believe that's a real thing. I don't think that's a storyline. We know legally how that played out for Travis. They recently settled that. So that was part of the reason why they had to separate. That was a very contentious situation with Travis's ex-wife. But in this conversation, in order to segue off the heat off of her, Gina brings up the whole Travis situation, how she's dealing with that and how that's affecting her, and she doesn't know where her relationship is going and when he goes through his emotional stuff. And I was like, oh, Gina, touche, you are brilliant here because you shifted the conversation from all of this and the heat on you about this to everyone feeling sorry for you. I was like, this was pretty brilliant. But she does dead the situation, even though she said she thought the situation with her and Katie was done, but it wasn't. And now maybe it is officially done. Do you think it's done? I mean, they're going to revisit it during the reunion. I do believe that Gina played Katie. I said that before. I'm going to say it again. But Katie, you're still a grown adult. You didn't have to. You could have easily said, you know what? I'm just going to go in and see if I can barter a good friendship or foster a good friendship with Heather. But I don't know if they do. Because based off of the preview for the season, it felt like something else happens between the two of them. Right now, Katie, I'm Team Heather, and I'm never Team anyone, but I'm Team Heather on this one because she makes a lot of sense, and I've seen too much about your past behavior that makes me kind of go, look, scrunch up my face for those that are listening to the podcast version of this. But okay, I'm going to give her grace. As you guys should too as well. Give her grace. We don't know. We'll see. I still like her. I don't like her as much as I like my girl Jen. But Jen, look, the heat was off you this week. We're on, episode 10? I believe we only have a couple, maybe like 3, 4, 5 more episodes. I don't know how long. They don't have long seasons anymore for Real Housewives. So we don't have that many more. But they're going to London. And Alexis isn't. Oh, poor thing. It's all right. Is it all right? Maybe. Guys, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video. It's an easy and free way of supporting not just my channel, but other channels as well. Be sure to check out some of what you missed already this week. Our Braxton's recap, our Love and Marriage Huntsville recap, our Real Housewives of Dubai reunion recap. Also, I recapped the Real Housewives of Potomac Season 9 trailer, so be sure to check that out. And as always, be sure to subscribe to the podcast Kempire. That way you don't miss out on special episodes and some of our live recaps there as well. I also did a great Hot Topics mashup. So if you missed anything this week in regards to our Hot Topics, like the Diddy of it all or the Nene of it all, be sure to listen to that episode that came out last night. Okay? And while you're there, don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify because why? It matters. Thank you to our King's Guards. Thank you to our channel members. We appreciate you guys. To become a member, head on over to teamkempire.com/join. And for everything Kempire, head on over to the description for more details. Again, thank you to Rose Forever for sponsoring today's live recap of the Real Housewives of Orange County. How would you guys rate this week's episode of Real Housewives of Orange County? I'm going to give it an 8.5, maybe a 9. I thought it was a great episode. I'm going to give it a 9. I'm going to give it a 9 because the charity was an amazing charity. I'm going to give it a 9. How would you guys rate it? Let me know. Anyways, let's get out of here. I will see you guys in the next one.
Here we go now.